Welcome back to part 2 of fixing the MR2 with a broken timing belt. In the last video, I tore down the front of the engine and found out the reason why the timing belt broke. If you didn't see the last video, what had happened is a bolt from the upper engine mount broke off and lodged itself in between the crank pulley and timing belt while I was driving to work. Not good. In this video, I reassemble everything and hope this will never happen again. As you can see, I wasn't taking any chances this time and ordered all new hardware and a new timing belt. Time to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Before we can install the timing belt, the first thing we got to do is rotate the engine to top dead center. And one way you do that is by reinstalling this crankshaft pulley and rotating the engine until the little arm on the belt tensioner lines up with this mark. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I now have the engine at top dead center. The mark on the flywheel now lines up with a pointer on the tensioner. Next, I'll do a similar process with the cams. Here I'm rotating each camshaft until the mark on the camshaft gear lines up with the mark on the back of the cover. There is a small dot on each camshaft gear, and you want to line that dot up with the vertical mark on the back of the cover. So I have one of the camshafts lined up. There's a dot on the front of the tooth right here, and it lines up with a corresponding mark on the back plate here. So I have to do the same thing with this other camshaft. So I'm just going to rotate it until I see the notch and then line it up with a mark. It's a little difficult to see. Where are you? Oh, this one's way at the bottom. Alright, everything looks good. So now I just gotta loosen the tensioner and we'll start putting the belt on. Tensioner's loose. Time to put the belt on. Now that the tensioner is loose, I can now slide the belt on. I installed the belt in a counterclockwise motion so any slack can be taken out with the tensioner. Wow, the belt went on a lot easier than I had thought. Now it's time to reinstall the spring to the belt tensioner. I got the timing belt installed, so the next thing I want to do is rotate the engine a few times to make sure the timing marks still line up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I just got done rotating the engine over a few times and everything lines up. As you can see, the mark here lines up with a corresponding mark on the back cover there. I don't know how well you guys can see that line, but everything's lining up. So the next thing I'm going to do is double check the tensioner pulley bolt. I want to make sure that's nice and tight, and then I'm going to start buttoning everything back up. Okay, I'm now ready to install the upper engine mount. Just gotta find the bag with my new bolts. Where are those things? I think these are it. Oh, yep, those are beautiful. Oh, duh, that way. There we go. Trying to figure out why I only had 2 bolt holes there. Alright, let's get this thing installed. I got the upper engine mount in. Now I can start installing the timing belt covers. You start at the bottom and work your way up when installing the covers on an AW11 MR2. Getting all the bolts into this top cover was challenging. I got all the timing belt covers installed. The next thing I need to do is raise the engine so I can reinstall the water pump pulley. Installing the bolts for the water pump pulley isn't fun because there isn't a whole lot of room to work. I had to do most of this work by feel. The hardest part was getting that first bolt started. Once you do, it's pretty easy to get the rest of them going. Now that the water pump pulley is in, it's now time to reinstall the crankshaft pulley so I can start installing all the accessory belts. The alternator belt is now installed and properly tensioned. Time to work on the AC. I ordered a new AC compressor because the old one was starting to get noisy. I figured now was a good time to do this since I had it all apart. Here I'm installing the AC bracket to the side of the engine. Shucks! The AC compressor I received isn't even the right one. As you can see, the two tops aren't even close to matching. Looks like reinstalling the AC compressor will have to be put on hold for now. Since I can't install the AC compressor, I'm going to go ahead and finish the car without it. Next, I install the upper engine mount. In order to install it, I had to raise the engine a bit to get all the bolts to line up. I also had to get on my back and install the remaining two nuts to the mount from under the car. Here I'm reconnecting the electrical connectors that I had to disconnect in order to get the timing belt covers out. I'm on the home stretch now. All that's left to do before I can start it is reinstall the wheel and reconnect the battery.
Okay, moment of truth. All I have to do is connect this battery cable and then turn the ignition, see if it fires up. Fingers crossed.
The car fired right up and is idling perfectly. Time to take it for a quick drive. Thankfully, the engine in an AW11 is a non-interference engine. What this means is, in the event of a timing belt failure, like what happened to me, the valves in the cylinder head will not collide with the pistons, which can cause catastrophic damage. Now, if this was an interference engine, I'd be doing a lot more than just slapping a timing belt on it. I would have been looking at a rebuilt cylinder head, the cost of new intake and exhaust valves. This all adds up to a considerable amount of more time and money to fix it. So what do I think happened? As we found out in the last video, one of the bolts of the upper motor mounts broke off and lodged itself in between the crank pulley and timing belt, which caused the belt to break. So what caused the bolt to break? My theory is that both lower motor mounts helped contribute to the failure of the bolt. I didn't notice this before, but both of my lower mounts are in terrible shape, causing the engine to sag and in turn putting a considerable amount of pressure on the upper motor mount. So unless I fix both motor mounts, I have a feeling this might happen again. Next year I plan on replacing both lower motor mounts and installing the correct AC compressor. If you'd like me to do a video on this, make sure you hit that like button. So that's how I fixed the broken timing belt in my MR2. Hopefully this video will give some guidance to other MR2 owners who may be in the same situation. So long.